Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be counting down the top 10 greatest heavy metal live albums of all time. Kicking things off here with my number 10, I'm going to go with Symphony and Metallica from 1999. This, of course, Metallica recording live with the San Francisco Symphony, and, a lot of bands have recorded with the Symphony over the years and released live albums, Kiss and Accept, just to name a few, but in my opinion, Metallica did it the best. I think their sound gels the best with the Symphony being played behind them, with so many great songs being magnified with the symphony, including tracks like Call of Cthulhu, Master of Puppets, The Thing That Should Not Be, right? Of course, you have two new songs on here, that being Human and No Leaf Clover, and I think in particular the Load era tracks sound incredible with the symphony. Some standouts from the Load era being performed live here include Hero of the Day, Devil's Dance, Bleeding Me, The Outlaw Torn as well. Just great stuff, really underrated, I think, from the Load era that sounds incredible here, recorded live with the symphony, Until It Sleeps as well. And some other standouts here include a great performance of Nothing Else Matters with some of James' best live vocals, I think, ever recorded. Really, really strong sounding here on this album. Got For Whom the Bell Tolls, Sad But True, One. You have Enter Sandman, because of course, and then Battery to close things out. Just great, great stuff here. It's a loaded set list of some of the best from all eras of Metallica up to this point, and they all sound incredible with the symphony being played behind them. The band sounds tight, and the symphony sounds great. So that said, coming in at number 10 here, I'm going to go with the first installment of Symphony and Metallica from 1999. Next up at number 9, we have another live album recorded here in 1999, that being Reunion by Black Sabbath. This album marks the reunion of the original Sabbath lineup, that being Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. And Black Sabbath recorded this live album here in their hometown of Birmingham, England, right? The live crowd is, so loud and enthusiastic, and who wouldn't be to get the chance to see the original Black Sabbath live after all these years. Black Sabbath back together here. They sound like they hadn't missed a beat as well. With This is your essential Black Sabbath set list. I mean, it's an incredible set, absolutely loaded with classic after classic, but some live standouts for me include War Pigs, you got Fairies Wear Boots, Electric Funeral, Sweet Leaf, Spiral Architect, Into the Void, Snowblind, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Dirty Women, great version here with an incredible guitar solo by Tony Iommi. Also in here, you have self-titled Black Sabbath, Iron Man, Children of the Grave, Paranoid, and two previously unreleased studio tracks, I should say, recorded right around the same time, that being Selling My Soul and Psycho Man, which are pretty underrated deep cuts, definitely worth checking out. So in general here, an incredible live album marking the reunion of the original Sabbath lineup in 1999. A great concert, and like I said, they sound like they had not missed a beat, so great to hear the original Sabbath here reunited to close out the 90s after what was a pretty tumultuous decade for Sabbath, with a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So finishing strong here in 99, reuniting with Ozzy and Bill Ward in a really, really awesome live record. So coming in at number 9 here, I'm going to go with Reunion by Black Sabbath. Following that up here with my number 8, I'm going to go with Live in LA by Death, recorded live in 1998, but wasn't released until 2001 as a way for the band to raise money for Chuck Schuldner's cancer treatments, but originally recorded live at the Whiskey A Go-Go in 1998 as part of the band's Down of Perseverance tour, touring one of my favorite albums of theirs, and just an incredible live set, absolutely loaded to the brim here with great death tracks like The Philosopher, Spirit Crusher, Trapped in a Corner, Scavenger of Human Sorrow, Crystal Mountain, Zombie Ritual, Empty Words, Symbolic, Pull the Plug to close things out. Great, great live record here. 72 minutes of just pure, raw death metal. And one of the things I love the most about this live record is the fact that it's 100% legit, 100% live. What you hear on this album is exactly what you heard if you were in the audience for this show. There's no tampering in the studio of the recordings here. This is just pure, raw death metal from their live set in LA in 1998. Great, great stuff here, and unfortunately Chuck Schuldiner would pass away soon after the release of this live record, but it's an incredible live album here, and just a part of that great legacy that Chuck left behind as part of Death. So that said, coming in at number 8 here, I'm going to go with Live in LA by Death, recorded on the Sound of Perseverance tour. Next to number 7, let's go with another heavy, raw live record here. That is Pantera with Official Live, 101 Proof. This is prime Pantera. Of course now you have Pantera touring without the Abbott brothers, who unfortunately have passed away, but you have Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benanti with them, but there's a certain energy and aggression missing from those shows. I think is perfectly captured here on this live album of Pantera in their prime. I mean, of course, Vinnie Paul on the drums was a force to be reckoned with, but Dimebag Darrell himself brought so much energy to that show. So, when it comes to the Pantera live set here, I think the entire band is firing on all cylinders, including the Abbott brothers, who are just so necessary and so prominent here on this album, in my opinion, that make the live set so great. Of course, Phil Anselmo on lead vocals sounds great as well. This is prime Pantera, firing on all cylinders in more ways than one. A great, great album here. What more could you expect from them? I don't know, but awesome set here that includes tracks like New Level, Walk, Becoming, 5 Minutes Alone, War Nerve, Strength Beyond Strength, Domination/Hollow, This Love, Unbroken, Cowboys from Hell, and Cemetery Gates. Just so many great tracks on here, classic recordings, and, some really aggressive heavy metal here by the band. It says right here on the front, what does it say here? Pure against the grain American metal. That's exactly what it is. Great, great stuff here by Pantera in their prime here in the 90s with some of their best work in a live setting. And again, the energy that's missing with the current Pantera lineup is captured perfectly here on this live record, which is just another reason to love this album here by the band. Such great stuff, and it's going to be my number 7 here on the list. Got to go with Official Live, 101 Proof by Pantera. Ozzy Osbourne has had a number of great guitarists in his band over the years, Zakk Wylde, Jake E. Lee, but in my opinion, his best live guitarist would have to be Randy Rhoads, who unfortunately passed away way too young, but Randy Rhoads and Ozzy Osbourne as a pairing were a force to be reckoned with in a live setting, and Tribute captures that perfectly here. Released 5 years after his death, it's a great tribute to Randy Rhoads, with so many great live recordings here during Randy's time in the band, with tracks like I Don't Know, Crazy Train, Believer, Mr. Crowley, Revelation, Mother Earth, Steal Away the Night, Suicide Solution, Iron Man, Children of the Grave, and Goodbye to Romance, really as highlights, I think. So many great live renditions of classic Ozzy Osbourne tracks from his early solo years, with Randy Rhoads on guitar, who again passed away way too soon, but this live album here is a great tribute, and of course appropriately named tribute as well, to Randy Rhoads here, who was a great companion for Ozzy in a live setting, and the two of them just gelled so well together. So that said, coming in at number 6 here, I'm going to go with Tribute, a great tribute to Randy Rhoads, and really does capture how great he and Ozzy worked together in a live setting during the early years of Ozzy's solo career. Moving on now into the top 5, coming in at number 5 here, I'm going to go with Made in Japan by Deep Purple, released in 1972 and then subsequently released in the US in 1973. This is the band on the Machine Head tour, the Mark II lineup, firing on all cylinders here. Some of the best work they ever did, in my opinion, recorded live on this record. Of course, Ian Gillan on lead vocals sounds amazing. One of the all-time best metal vocalists in his prime was Ian Gillan, but I think for me what really puts this live album over the top is the instrumentation throughout. Richie Blackmore's guitar soloing is absolutely killer, and he's got some great improvisation on here as well. John Lord, absolute legend, does a great job as always, and Ian Pace on the drums with an absolutely incredible performance on here. He's a beast, and his drum solo on the mule is fantastic as well. So there are so many great performances here by each individual member, and I absolutely love the track listing with some of their best material. That includes Highway Star, Child in Time, Smoke on the Water, the aforementioned The Mule, Strange Kind of Woman, Lazy, and Space Truckin' to close things out. Produced by Deep Purple, it's one of the best and most influential live albums of all time. Coming in at number 5 here, just cracking the top 5, I gotta go with Made in Japan by Deep Purple and the Mark II lineup, touring the Machine Head record. Just great work here by Deep Purple in their prime. Speaking of great live albums recorded in Japan by bands in their prime, next at number 4 here, let's go with Unleashed in the East by Judas Priest, live in Japan. An incredible live set here, recorded across 2 nights on their Hellbent for Leather tour, right? Of course, on this album, you get to see some of Rob Halford's greatest live vocals, and also really does establish KK Downing and Glenn Tipton as one of the best guitar duos in all of metal. Absolutely killing it here on this live record, right? With so many great tracks recorded here, including Exciter, Sinner, The Ripper, The Green Man Alicia with a 2-pronged crown, Diamonds and Rust, Victim of Changes, just some insane vocal notes here by Halford, Genocide, and Tyrant. It's all good stuff. It's all great, in my opinion, here. Great live recordings by Judas Priest, young in their prime, a force to be reckoned with, and one of the best live acts in all of metal. Recorded live in 1979. Coming in at number 4 here, I'm going to go with Unleashed in the East. Breaking into the top 3 here with my number 3, I'm going to go with the most underrated metal live album of all time, in my opinion. That is Double Live Assassins by W.A.S.P, and this is recorded live on the KFD tour in 1997. Released in 1998, and this features my favorite W.A.S.P lineup, that being Blackie Lawless, Chris Holmes, Mike Duda, and Sted Howland. You can see the band here on the back. Just really, really tight here was the band during this tour, and the set list, you could not put together a better W.A.S.P set list here for this live album. The medley is great to open things up. Got Wild Child, Love Machine, Kill Ahead, I Want to Be Somebody, You, The Real Me, Kill Your Pretty Face, The Horror, Blind in Texas, The Headless Children, The Idol, the Crimson Idol medley, which is great. right? Mean Man, great version here, and then Rock and Roll to Death to close things out. Produced by Blackie Lawless, it just sounds incredible from top to bottom. You could not put together a better W.A.S.P live set and a better set list here. And what's interesting about the production here is the band sound great on this album, but then a couple years later they would release The Sting, which is another live record produced by Blackie Lawless, and it would sound terrible. So really interesting here that you get two sides of production here by Blackie. Great producing here on Double Live Assassins, and then terrible production on The Sting a couple of years later. But maybe the worst live albums of all time is another video for another day. But today, we're just talking about the best, and this is one of the all-time best, in my opinion. That is Double Live Assassins, with great sound here, great set list, and my favorite lineup of the band. Recorded live in 1997, released in 1998. I gotta go with Double Live Assassins here by W.A.S.P, coming in at number 3. Maybe a bit controversially at number 2, I'm going to go with Live After Death by Iron Maiden, recorded live on the Power Slave tour. And let me just say, I love this album to death, no pun intended, but it is absolutely incredible here. This is prime Iron Maiden, a killer set list, that being Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, The Trooper, Revelations, Flight of Icarus, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Power Slave, Number of the Beast, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills, Running Free. I mean, my God, it is so great here. And of course, the band in their prime, firing on all cylinders. It does not get better than this when it comes to, Iron Maiden's live performances. It is hands down the best Iron Maiden live album of all time, and they have a lot of great live recordings, but I did limit myself to 1 pick per band here on the main top 10 list, so that's the only reason why. There weren't a couple other Maiden live releases sprinkled in here on this countdown, but Live After Death is the standard bearer for, some of the all-time best metal live albums. So, I know a lot of people will probably have this at number 1, and my number 1 pick might be a bit controversial, but, for me, this is one of the all-time best. It has to be my number 2 here. Got to go with Live After Death by Iron Maiden, recorded live on the Power Slave tour in 1985. But before we get to my number 1, which might be a bit controversial, I do have a handful of honorable mentions to give out. So, that said, I do want to give some special recognition here to Scream For Me Brazil by Bruce Dickinson, Live Binge and Purge box set here by Metallica. Also here you have Operation Live Crime by Queensryche and No Sleep Till Hammersmith by Motorhead. I wanted to include all of these on my list, but I can only fit 10 here today, so that said, these are all honorable mentions, but all great live albums in their own right. And finally, coming in at number 1, you might not agree with me putting this over Live After Death, and it is a very controversial decision, I think. Even for myself, I'm saying, wow, did I really just put this higher than Live After Death? But, if you've been following my channel, this is my favorite live album of all time. That is MTV Unplugged by Alice in Chains, and, I know a lot of people would probably not consider any of the big 4 of grunge to be metal bands, but for me, I always found Alice in Chains to be more on the metal side of grunge than anything else. So that said here, they're going to be my number 1 here with MTV Unplugged, recorded live in 1996. This is the first Alice in Chains live show in a number of years. The band took a hiatus as Lane Staley would focus on the Mad Season project, this great side project here. But they would not record live for a number of years up until MTV Unplugged. So really, really great live recording here. And of course, the aura surrounding the band, in particular Lane Staley, during this live set is indescribable. I mean, just go check out some of the videos on YouTube of Lane and the band here. It is a really, really interesting visual. Of course, Lane had seen better days at this point, but his voice still held up here, and it's an incredible show with great tracks like Nutshell, Brother, No Excuses, Sludge Factory, Down in a Hole, Angry Chair, Rooster, Got Me Wrong, Heaven Beside You, Wood, Frogs, great version there. One of my all-time favorite Alice in Chains songs, favorite recordings, period, is the unplugged version of Frogs, Over Now, and then Killer Is Me. A new track debuted here, recorded live on their MTV Unplugged sessions. And you know what, again, I know it might be a bit controversial to put this over Live After Death, especially because Alice in Chains are not widely regarded as a metal band by, everybody. But for me, I consider them to be metal, and I consider them to be, on the metal side of grunge. And this is just an incredible album from top to bottom that definitely made an impression on me. I think it's one of the all-time best recordings, period. My favorite live album of all time, MTV Unplugged by Alice in Chains from 1996. Just incredible, incredible atmospheric stuff here by the band, and it's my number 1 on the list here today. So that wraps up my list, counting down the top 10 greatest metal live albums of all time, which should be visible right over here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications, be notified of a new upload, and let me know down in the comments below what are some of your favorite metal live albums of all time. I'd be very interested in hearing your picks, so let me know all that good stuff down in the comments. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.